we begin with our media partners from voiceofoc.org for an update on what's happening this week in Orange County government and politics.
Here to talk about issues in the news right now, we welcome the editor-in-chief for Voice of OC, Norberto Santana. How are you, Norberto?
Ed, Ann, thanks for having me again.
Another busy Board of Supervisors meeting. What had the Latino Health Access folks so upset?
Well, hundreds of Latino moms showed up converged really on the Board of Supervisors this week, insisting that the board consider reinstating a $500,000 grant that's used on preventative mental health programs that are administered through the Santa Ana-based nonprofit called Latino Health Access.
Okay.
Well,
some of the problems in dealing with this now, there's talk of maybe a little political payback?
Absolutely. County staff apparently cut this grant after supervisors last year asked some questions about the use of the word promotora, which in Spanish means healthcare worker, and the use of the word Latino in Latino Health Access. The questions were, do the use of these Spanish terms make the program less accessible to many others? The problem begins is that much of the healthcare bureaucracy apparently took this question from supervisors, and what they did was they terminated the grant. That really angered a lot of these Latino mothers who basically are looking at an unchanged indexes in Central Orange County for things like poverty, childhood obesity, access to preschool. And that really brought them out to the Board of Supervisors en masse. When they were there, the director of that program, America Bracho, spoke to the supervisors and talked to them about the importance of using data to drive decisions. Here's what she told us in the camera.
They are doing this because they are not using data and they are not using need to prioritize their expenditures. They are not using data to prioritize policies. They are using other things that are not data. I mean, think about it. They put together the best reports on earth on the conditions of children in Orange County. And the conditions of children are telling us that this group of kids in these particular areas of Orange County do not have access to preschool. These kids are living in violent environments. They don't have access to opportunities after school. And in spite of that, they are not funding this program or other programs. So that tells you that data is not guiding policies. There is something else.
The key here is this, is that they're actually finding some allies in county supervisors, because one of the things for Central Orange County they're finding is the cost of public safety pensions go up and up and up. These types of preventative programs are beginning to get a new look from even Republican supervisors who might not have traditionally looked at these types of programs, but they can certainly save a lot of money on the front end by dealing with problems before they become problematic.
All right, let's move on to another topic, talking about negotiations between Orange County supervisors and the Santa Barbara County CEO, Chandra Waller, who was looking to come here to Orange County and fill that same seat. Negotiations broke down. I assume it was a money issue?
Absolutely. And again, the same issue comes back into play, public sector pensions. One of the biggest things that we're seeing with a lot of the executive ranks is the County Board of Supervisors here in Orange County has sent a clear message, which is every single employee is going to have to pay for their share of a pension. Now, that's already being done with the rank and file worker. Where they are getting a lot of blowback, though, is from the executive ranks. The attorneys recently just had to have a labor deal imposed on them. Well, the same thing popped up with the CEO search. Santa Barbara's CEO, Chandra Waller, we broke a story last month that really sped up negotiations. She wanted to be paid close to about $300,000 in order to be reimbursed for paying for her own pension. Two supervisors, Pat Bates and Janet Wynn, initially were leaning towards doing that. Two others, Sean Nelson and John Morlock, said absolutely not. This week, it all blew up. Chandra Waller supposedly gave them an edict and said, give me an up or down vote. Their vote was 5-0, we like you, but no, they didn't even have a motion to take up her salary with this whole issue of the pension being out there. So they're back at square one.
Okay, so she is completely out.
At this point, that's what we've heard, that we don't see any movement on that, and they don't meet for another 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, you rarely hear things about the clerk recorder's office, but all of a sudden that's changed. Start with the restricted fund issue.
A hugely troubling issue. The county's internal auditor here in Orange County, Peter Hughes, came forward as supervisors and basically told them there's a multi-million-dollar fund inside the clerk recorder's office that's been used for things like purchasing buildings that can't be accounted for. They can't find receipts for it. They're having to recreate things, which is the kind of thing that makes auditors extremely nervous. Now, This week at the Board of Supervisors, when Supervisor John Morlock heard about how this building had been bought that ultimately cost more money to refurbish than it did to purchase it, he went off at the former Clerk Recorder Tom Daly, who's now representing Orange County in the State Assembly. Here's John's take on the issue.
I've been heartbroken, crestfallen, that this building just has sat literally dormant. We spent a couple million for it, but we were never told it would take $3 to $4 million to bring it up to code. We were told, as you pointed out in this report, some minor repairs. And this report's extremely disturbing. I am not calm.
The other thing that's not making anybody calm these days is the same office, the Clerk Recorder's another contract that Tom Daly let out to one of his allies in Anaheim City Council member Jordan Brandman, who's been paid $24,000 to prepare a feasibility study of whether the Clerk Recorder should open a new office. Problem is that study's been in the works for a year. He got the contract while he was campaigning for office, and at this point, county supervisors are beginning to look at him. And when they looked at the report, they found that most of it, a lot of it, had been lifted from Wikipedia.
Oh no!
They're starting to ask now for their money back.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how this works out. At this point, though, it's also complicating the selection process for a new Clerk Recorder with, again, a Daily ally, Rene Ramirez, being in some real trouble in terms of trying to answer some questions about how a contract like that got let out.
Oh, wow. Okay, we look forward to talking to you more next week. Roberto, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you again. And for more on these stories, you can go on to voiceofoc.org.